Imagine waking up one morning and finding out that like 93% of the people who used to visit your website will just never click your link again.
Yeah, that is a pretty terrifying thought.
Right. But then imagine realizing that this massive drop in traffic is actually, well, the most critical opportunity your business has ever faced, provided you know exactly how to adapt to it. So welcome to our deep dive.
Happy to be here. There is a lot to get through.
There really is. Our mission for this deep dive is to just unpack a massive, completely industry-shifting SEO briefing that covers July 11th through July 17th, 2026. Basically, these sources are technical dispatches mapping out a total upheaval in search behavior.
And I think it sounds like an exaggeration to say the internet fundamentally changed in a matter of days, but the data from that specific 7-day stretch paints a picture of really a total paradigm shift.
Yeah, it really does.
We're looking at the definitive death of traditional search, at least as a human-driven activity. The landscape we're dissecting is suddenly dominated by autonomous AI agents, multi-engine optimization, and just a complete restructuring of how information is stored and retrieved.
Okay, let's unpack this from the beginning, because to understand how we get to that terrifying 93% zero-click statistic, we really have to look at the structural cracks that opened up on Monday, July 11.
Right, Monday is where it starts.
Because for 2 decades, building for the web basically meant building for Google, right? You optimized for one single algorithm. But the briefing shows that on July 11, multi-engine SEO transitioned from this like cool buzzword into a hard, non-negotiable requirement.
Exactly. And the catalyst for that really comes down to sheer volume and fractured attention. There's this major study by Previsible that dropped, and they analyzed something like 6.77 million sessions.
That's a massive sample size.
Oh, totally. And it revealed that ChatGPT now commands 92.4% of all standalone AI referral traffic.
Wait, 92.4%?
Yeah.
That is a staggering monopoly on standalone AI.
It is a massive share of that specific pie, yeah. But the overall ecosystem is fracturing rapidly at the exact same time. Like Claude recently overtook Perplexity, growing 64 times over.
Oh, wow.
So if you are a brand or a developer and your entire strategy is still anchored solely to Google's traditional algorithm on July 11, you are, well, entirely invisible to a massive chunk of how discovery actually happens now.
That makes total sense. I mean, you have ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, and Gemini all serving as these distinct starting points for users. And because they're distinct models, they don't value information the same way, right?
Not at all. They have completely different architectures.
Right. And the briefing notes that on July 11, developers began massively accelerating their adoption of something called llms.txt files. They were pushing them to, I think, 15 to 20% of major websites.
Yep, that's right.
So for anyone listening who isn't super deep into the technical side, how does a file like that actually help a website talk to 4 completely different AI engines?
So think of it as a specialized syllabus specifically written for machine. In the old days of the web, developers used a file called robots.txt.
Right, which basically acted like a traffic cop, telling the crawlers which pages they were allowed to look at and which to ignore.
Exactly, the traffic cop. But an llms.txt file goes much deeper than that. It provides large language models with this highly structured plain text summary of the website's core information.
So it's bypassing all the fluff.
Right. It bypasses all the heavy code, the formatting, the visual design that a human browser actually needs. It just hands the AI the pure data it needs to understand the site's context immediately.
So you are basically pre-digesting your website for the machine.
Pretty much, yeah.
And that technical shift on July 11 sets the stage for this massive strategic pivot we see hitting on Tuesday, July 12, which is essentially the official death of keyword obsession and the rapid rise of something called entity SEO.
And honestly, the shift from keywords to entities is probably the most profound psychological hurdle for traditional marketers to clear.
Because they've been doing it one way for 20 years.
Exactly. For years, the game was just about repetition. If you sold running shoes, you figured out, how many times you could naturally weave the phrase best marathon running shoes into a single article.
Which always resulted in those terrible, unreadable recipe blogs where someone tells a 10-page story about their grandmother.
Yes, the grandmother story.
Stuff the keyword apple pie like 15 times before they actually give you the ingredients.
Right. But as of July 12, with Google's AI mode moving toward becoming the default search experience, that strategy didn't just stop working, it became actively harmful.
Because AI doesn't read like we do.
Right. AI engines don't read words sequentially like humans, they map relationships. Entity SEO treats your brand, your products, and your authors as nodes in a giant relational database.
So it's about defining concepts.
Exactly. You want the AI to understand that your brand is fundamentally connected to the concept of marathon training and that it's verified by a specific author who is recognized out in the world as a medical expert.
But wait, if I'm not tracking the rank of a specific keyword phrase anymore, how do I even measure success? Like, if I have to optimize my entities for ChatGPT's architecture and Claude's architecture and Gemini's architecture, aren't I just throwing darts at a board, hoping one sticks?
It can feel like that, yeah.
Because every model weighs data differently.
You aren't throwing darts in the dark, but you are being judged by a much harsher, way more complex standard. And what's fascinating here is the complexity of balancing those different architectures is highlighted by this stunning data point from the July 12 briefing.
It's the brand ranking stat.
Yes. Out of millions of companies globally, only 36 brands managed to rank in the top 100 across all four of those major platforms simultaneously.
Read, only 36 brands in the entire world figured out how to be an authority across the board?
Just 36. Because each platform has incredibly distinct citation behaviors. Like, Perplexity might heavily weight academic citations and highly structured data, while Gemini inherently leans on Google's massive proprietary graph, user reviews and maps, and ChatGPT might favor highly accessible plain text synthesis. So to rank across all of them, your entity relationships have to be absolutely flawless from every single angle.
Wow. And that fractured, multi-engine reality inevitably triggered the behavioral crisis we saw peak on Wednesday, July 13th.
The big zero-click moment.
Right. Because users are finding incredibly accurate synthesized answers directly through these distinct AI engines. Google just unleashes Gemini 3.5 Flash-to-Power AI mode as the default experience. And the immediate result is that 93% zero-click rate for AI mode queries.
And that 93% metric is really the line in the sand for the digital economy.
Yeah.
Out of 100 people asking a question, 93 get everything they need from the AI's generated summary right there on the search page.
Never click a link.
Never click. They never visit the source website.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If I'm a brand spending, tens of thousands of dollars a month on web hosting, UI design, user experience, and 93 out of 100 people never even see my homepage, I am immediately firing my web designer and questioning why I even have a website.
Yeah.
As of July 13, it sounds completely obsolete.
Well, it is entirely obsolete if you think of a website as a digital magazine for human eyeballs.
Right.
But the website's purpose fundamentally mutated on July 13. This zero-click reality forced the birth of a whole new discipline called relevance engineering. The briefing notes that AI overviews are now serving 2.5 billion monthly users.
That's wild.
And they're appearing in roughly 79% of informational queries.
Which means nearly every time a human asks a question to learn something, an AI is intercepting that question and just summarizing the answer.
Intercepting, yes, but also retrieving. The AI doesn't just invent the answer out of thin air, ideally. This is where relevance engineering comes in, specifically a mechanism called RAG, that's Retrieval Augmented Generation.
Okay, let's break that down for the listener because RB sounds incredibly dense. How does retrieval augmented generation actually function when someone, types a question?
Sure. Let's say a user asks, what are the current inventory levels and prices for waterproof camping tents under $200 in Seattle?
Very specific.
Right. A standard language model might just guess based on old training data, but an AI utilizing ARG actively reaches out to live databases. So it hits the website of a local outdoor retailer, retrieves the specific real-time pricing and inventory data, and then generates a conversational answer for the user based on that fresh data.
Okay, so the website is no longer a destination. It is a raw data feed for the machine. You're basically structuring your databases so cleanly that when the AI goes looking for the answer to that camping tent question, it specifically chooses your inventory data to build its summary.
Exactly. That is the core of relevance engineering. If your data isn't structured for immediate, frictionless extraction by the AI, you just don't get retrieved.
And if you aren't retrieved, you don't exist.
You simply do not exist in that 93% of zero-click searches. Your beautiful UI design just doesn't matter if the machine can't parse your inventory tables.
That makes perfect sense, but it immediately highlights a massive vulnerability, which I think takes us directly into the events of Thursday, July 14.
The trust issue.
Yes, Because if the AI is pulling data and building these answers, and 93% of users aren't clicking through to verify the source for themselves, how does the machine know who isn't lying? Like if I structure my data perfectly but fill it with absolute garbage, what stops the AI from presenting my lies as fact?
And that trust vacuum became an existential threat to the AI models. I mean, if they hallucinate or present spam as fact, users abandon them completely. That is exactly what forced Google's hand on July 14th when the June 2026 spam update finally settled.
The timeline shows Google launching search profiles that same day, which took publisher identity verification mainstream. But the most significant development on July 14 is the evolution of EET.
Huge shift.
For anyone unfamiliar, that stands for experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. For years, Google preached EEAT as this, conceptual philosophy. Be a good actor, create trustworthy content. But on July 14th, it shifted into a hard, technical ranking signal.
Which is a monumental engineering feat. If we connect this to the bigger picture, measuring a human feeling like trust algorithmically requires a massive shift in how you evaluate content.
So what does this all mean? I'm still struggling with the mechanics of that. How does a machine mathematically score my expertise without a human manually reviewing my work?
Well, it relies on consensus and verifiable cryptographic entities. Search profiles essentially provide a verified identity layer for the internet.
Okay.
So the machine can now structurally verify that the person who authored a medical article actually holds a medical degree because their search profile is cryptographically linked to established institutional databases.
So it's not just taking your word for it on a little About Us page anymore.
Not at all. In fact, the AI inherently distrusts almost anything you say about yourself. The briefing highlights a defining statistic here. Studies show that 82 to 94% of AI citations go to earned media, not brand-owned blogs.
Wait, 82 to 94%? So I could write the most brilliantly researched, deeply insightful article on my own company blog, and the AI will actively choose to ignore it. It will only cite a journalist or a third-party review site talking about my company.
Pretty much. The machine's logic is that self-published brand content is inherently biased. So to measure true authoritativeness, EEAT forces the algorithm to look for third-party validation. If you are truly an expert, other verified experts will be linking to you, interviewing you, citing your data.
Which means SEO and public relations just merged into a single discipline.
They're inseparable now.
You literally cannot rank in an AI-driven search environment without a digital PR strategy. You have to get other trusted entities to talk about you.
And it also spawned an entirely new category of analytics. Tools like Eat Clean launched and immediately became mandatory because they mathematically score your reputation based on those third-party signals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's not about counting backlinks anymore. It's about evaluating the cryptographic trust score of the specific entities mentioning you. The briefing notes SE Ranking was named the best value AI platform during this window precisely because they adapted to this technical trust measurement so efficiently.
That is wild. Your reputation is literally a math equation now. And with trust, quantified and multi-engine visibility becoming mandatory, the software ecosystem just had to mutate to keep up. Which brings us to Friday, July 15th and Saturday, July 16th, where the tech stack just explodes.
Oh, absolutely. The tools that marketing teams relied on for a decade were suddenly obsolete without major overhauls.
All right. On Friday, July 15th, we see Semrush One launch, unifying traditional SEO metrics with AI search monitoring. Ahrefs rolls out AI-enhanced intelligence. BrightEdge pushes into enterprise automation. We also see the broader tool explosion like Nightwatch for top AI-native rank tracking, Ally AI, Amplified Digital, AirTop.
It was a massive wave of releases.
It really was.
Yeah.
But I don't want to just list software updates. How are these tools actually changing the day-to-day workflow? How does a tool like Semrush One bridge the gap between traditional Google search and this wild new AI landscape?
Well, traditionally, a tool like Semrush would give you a dashboard showing where your website ranked for a specific keyword on Google.
Just a simple list.
Exactly. Semrush One shifts the focus entirely to entity visibility. Instead of just showing a rank, it monitors how frequently your brand is being cited as a trusted entity across ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude.
Oh, okay.
It tracks the health of your llms.txt files. It monitors your EEAT trust scores. It is essentially translating the fractured AI ecosystem into actionable data.
That definitely brings a level of sanity to the chaos. But all of that monitoring really just sets the stage for the week's biggest breakthrough, which lands on Saturday, July 16th. Agentic SEO emerges as the defining trend.
And this is where we cross the threshold from human optimization to machine commerce.
Yes.
AI visibility tracking was just the first step. On July 16, tools like Lizzer and Numos AI move beyond just monitoring and become fully autonomous agents. They're handling keyword research, content optimization, technical audits automatically.
I love this concept, but it is incredibly sci-fi. To me, agentic SEO is like hiring a digital butler.
The digital butler, I like that.
Yeah, it doesn't just read the internet and give you a summary. It actually takes action. Like if I want a new pair of running shoes, I don't browse 10 different websites anymore. I tell my digital butler my size, my budget, and my preferences, and the butler goes out into the digital city, talks to the stores, negotiates the price, makes the purchase, and the shoes just show up at my door.
That analogy is spot on. But to make that digital butler functional, the entire architecture of the web has to change. Because if your digital butler goes to a store's website, it doesn't care about the flashy promotional banners or the clever copywriting.
It has no eyes.
Exactly. It needs to read the database.
Which explains the sudden emergence of new protocols on July 16th. The briefing highlights MCP, which stands for Model Context Protocol, and ACP, the Agentic Commerce Protocol. So this raises an important question. How do these protocols actually allow my digital butler to talk to a retailer's website?
So think of ACP as a standardized language for autonomous negotiation. If an AI agent hits a retailer's site looking for those running shoes, it uses the Agentic Commerce Protocol to query the inventory via natural language, confirm the sizing, and even execute the financial transaction without a human ever loading a single web page.
So a company optimizing for agentic SEO isn't designing for human eyeballs at all. They're basically structuring their servers to act as an API for natural language models. They're literally just paving the driveway for the digital butlers.
They have to, because if your competitor's website supports ACP and yours doesn't, the user's AI agent will simply buy from the competitor. The agent will always take the path of least friction.
That is a staggering realization, and I think it perfectly frames the wrap-up of this incredible 7-day stretch on Sunday, July 17th. Because the digital landscape that existed on July 10 is unrecognizable by July 17th.
Completely different world.
Google AI overviews officially cement their zero-click dominance. GEO and llms.txt adoption is just accelerating. Multi-engine SEO spanning ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, and Claude becomes the undisputed standard operating procedure.
We saw Semrush, Surfer SEO, and Ahrefs radically reinforce their platforms to handle this new reality. The internet fundamentally changed its operating system that week. We moved from a web of pages designed for humans to read to a web of data structures designed for AI to retrieve, synthesize, and act upon autonomously.
The speed of it is what truly stands out. I mean, in a single week, EEAT became a hard mathematical rule, agentic SEO became a reality, and 93% of clicks just vanished into AI summaries. But there was one final, deeply provocative detail hidden in that massive pre-visible study that we really need to address before we go.
Oh, the internal search stat.
Yes. We mentioned the 6.77 million sessions they analyzed. Well, the data reveals something incredibly strange about how ChatGPT behaves when it does send traffic to a website. ChatGPT sends 28.8% of its referrals not to a brand's homepage and not even to a specific answer page, but directly to the website's internal search results pages.
Which is a behavior that completely bypasses the traditional user journey.
Think about the mechanics of that. The AI bot completely ignores the front door of your business. It ignores your navigation menus, your carefully crafted sales funnels, your beautiful layout. It goes straight to the little magnifying glass icon on your site, types its own query into your internal search bar, and scrapes the raw results to bring back to the user.
The machine is literally treating every website on the internet as nothing more than a private, queryable database.
Exactly. If AI bots are bypassing the front door entirely to talk directly to your internal site search, and autonomous digital butlers are doing all the browsing, the evaluating, and the purchasing for us, what happens to the visual web? Like, if the future of the internet is just a vast, invisible network of code communicating with code in the dark, where exactly does human creativity fit in?
And that tension between machine efficiency and human expression is going to define the next decade of digital architecture.
It really is. If we aren't designing for people anymore, what are we actually building? It is a massive question to grapple with, especially when the ground is shifting this fast. So we will leave you to think on that. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.